So today we're going to be working on cross-hatching. We already did our shading, which means it's a different kind of shading. We'll be using pens or Sharpies. So let's write that on the top. Cross. Oh, see, that pen looks like it's dried out already. Hopefully. Sometimes they're dried out and the ink will flow a little better after you write with it for a while. Or sometimes you can turn it. Cross-hatching. Forget your name up here. And the date. Alright, so remember how we did those value scales? We're going to do that again. Value scale. See, my pen is already warmed up now. It's flowing a little better. Sometimes you have to do that with brand new. And we're going to make a big long line going all the way across. If you go too fast, you get this thin line if your pen doesn't flow very well. We're going to make it kind of big. So maybe go about the width of your pen here, pen cap I mean. So somewhere in there, doesn't have to be exactly. And then make a nice big long line. Now remember, the first shading one we did was the gradual one, so we're going to do something kind of like that. So if you want to go straight up and down, that might be the easiest. So just going to make a bunch of lines, trying to kind of close together. And the cool thing is that we can add more lines later if we feel the need. Alright, so I'm going to do some more over here on the left side because I want it to look like it's darker. So the more lines you have, it gives more the illusion of it being darker. And it's okay if they go over each other. I'm not looking for a perfect set of lines here. I'm just going back over here. I'm going to do a few more on the left side because I want it to look like it's pretty dark. See how it just looks dark already? Alright, a few more here. Now, in order to get lighter values with cross-hatching, you basically just have to spread the lines further apart. So as I go this way, I'm going to start spreading them out. Even though my lines are looking darker, by me just spreading them out, it's going to look like the values are lighter. So definitely gets easier down here, doesn't it? Let me get a few more lines in here just to make that a little bit darker. Not too much, don't want to get too crazy here. And then on the very, very left, I'm going to just try to put so many on here that it does look kind of dark. Alright, so see how it kind of looks like it's dark and getting lighter even though all we did is draw lines. Alright, let's do another line. This time, we're going to do something. So technically this is just hatching up here. So the cross hatching is like two forms. That's considered hatching, even though we crossed over a few lines here. It's technically just considered hatching because you're just drawing those lines. Alright, so now I'm going to do a diagonal line instead of an up and down line. So I'm going to start in this corner here, do a bunch of these lines. Now it's going to have a weird 3D effect where it kind of looks like it's going off into space. Alright, something like that, where it just kind of Now we're going to do diagonals in the opposite direction, going this way. You might want to draw from your shoulder, meaning moving your whole arm. And so that's another way. I'm going to put a few more over here just to darken this area up. And then this direction too, and a few more of those. Not bad. Now obviously we could do a lot more stuff here to make that even darker. Alright, let's go ahead and divide this bottom part into 3 sections. So if you can picture 3 sections here. So I'm going to do one about here somewhere and one about here. Okay. And then we're going to divide this in half. That's about half, right? And then half again. And then half again. On this first one, everybody's favorite, especially in kindergarten, is to just do some scribbles. So I'm just kind of doing swirls. You can go jaggedy. Now over here I'm going to do some more to make it darker. Just kind of scribble, scribble, scribble. Then spread these out more over here. And as I get closer to the left side, I want it darker because I'm trying to do it from dark to light. So that's a scribble hatching. Alright, so we've got, I'm going to go back up here and write hatching on this one, just so we kind of get on the same page here. Hatching, then this one's cross hatching, because we got the lines crossing, and then this is scribble. Let's see where's a good spot for that so I don't lose my scribble. Can you read that? Scribble. Now you could also do what's called pointillism, and that's basically where you just draw a bunch of dots. So I'm gonna kind of wiggle. Now this one takes a little longer, obviously. So the more dots we have, and you can do this with colors too and do a whole artwork with pointillism. That over here, we're trying to spread them out. Try to be as random as you can, that's why I'm going back and forth. You could line them all up and get the same effect. Kind of like we did this one, they're all very linear. So over here, maybe just the one little dot or so per little area. Then you have to kind of look at, I'm not tapping. I can hear you tapping. I'm just putting it down. The more you tap, the more you're going to damage the tip of your Sharpie. We want these Sharpies to last us a while. So if you're sitting there tapping, banging it, you're just destroying the end of the marker. Now let me put a few more here. I'm just barely touching it. Once you get a good rhythm, you can even do a little wiggle and make the dots a little bigger. Now every once in a while, kind of step back, look at it, go, okay, can I go darker on that? Or lighter? Can I make that darker? Just put lots and lots and lots of more dots in that area to make it even darker. Believe it or not, there's artists that have made their whole career out of just doing dots for their paintings, even just drawing dots of paint. I hear tapping. Try not to tap, please. I still hear it. Alright, so the more dots I put on here, then obviously less, the more I have to keep fix this up. So see, look how it's darker. Even I could go darker than that. I just don't feel like I have the time. And that's why I think some of you are tapping, because you're impatient and you're trying to get this done. A nice steady rhythm is better than just trying to rush through it. Alright, I think that's pretty good. You could also use some kind of mark, checks or X's. Let's do X's. So to put a whole bunch of X's over here, they can, it's okay if they go over the top of each other. And then as they get this way, they spread them out more. Maybe a couple over there at the end. You could do that with swirls or circles. Now I have a tendency to get these all lined up. I lined up a whole bunch of them, but it'd be better if you just kind of go back and forth and do it randomly. So when you kind of step back and look at it, go, oh, which area looks like it's missing something. If it looks lighter in one area, it's probably because you don't have enough marks in there. To make it darker, just add a few more X's in that area. So that could be a challenge for a drawing. You just make X's, or I've even seen people just use like their initials and just make a whole artwork with their initials. Alright, so for this last one, I want to make kind of like a ribbon feel. So for ribbon, you can use the lines to your advantage and kind of copy the curve of the ribbon. So you can kind of go like this. So I'm going to add some more on this side here to make that darker. So you kind of have to picture where the light might be coming. Then I'm going to do a little bit of spread out over here. And then where it goes back up, and it gets to the top, you would have a highlight at the top. So I probably should have left that lighter there. And then go darker in here again. Back up with it in that direction. And then darker on this side. So this area I wanted to look like it's lower, so I'm just kind of just drawing more shading in this area. Same thing here, I need to fix that one up. So basically just some cross-hatching to try to make it look like it's darker in this area. And then it gets lighter as it goes up. And sometimes less is more, meaning if you do too much, it might start to go away and make it look funny. So think of how we did our cylinders and our spheres, and how the things that are up further, they're lighter, and then they're darker as they go down away from the light, which we're going to go ahead and attempt. Now this is the point where you got to remember, follow these directions, don't try to get ahead of me here, because I need you to draw the cube again. So draw a nice square in the front, and then make sure the diagonals are going towards your name. Right? All the diagonals should be going towards your name. So this is where you have to pay attention to how far you need to do these, so that you don't have extra lines. Alright. And now to do our shading, let's keep the light source up here like we've been doing. Coming down this direction, so that means the highlight, the top's going to get the most light, so I'm just going to leave that alone for this one. Let's do just a nice old regular hatching on the front. Try to make it look like it's one value darker than that. So keep them pretty even. I know it's hard to keep them exactly perfectly even, but and then on this side we're going to go darker. So I'm going to go ahead and do one set over here in line with that diagonal that we did earlier. And then I'll do another set of cross-hatching over the top of it with the other direction. So we got one direction going diagonal, one direction going up and down. And that'll help us make it look like it's darker on this side. If you want, you can add it. I think that looks pretty good there. And then remember, we don't want shadow on the front too much, so we're going to make our shadow go this direction. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the shadow over here. And just to give it a different feel and texture, I'm going to use one of these kind of patterns. I could do scribble, dot, X's. I think I'm just going to go with scribble and then just make a scribble shadow area. That way it'll look just enough different. I'm making a line here that's thicker to get my shadow started. It looks a little darker, right? But it does look like a shadow. And then for our last one, we're going to try to attempt to make a sphere. So we're going to go ahead and make a circle. Remember, use your whole arm wiggling from your shoulder to make a circle. Now, it's not going to be perfect because we are using a pen. Alright, so that's not a perfect circle, but it's okay. Alright, so now we're just going to do one general shading across this area on the bottom, because we know the light source is here still, shining down. So the highlight's going to be here. We definitely don't want to add any lines whatsoever in this area right here. But we do want in the bottom part. We could draw it out, but I don't want to do that. I want to kind of use your pencil here, and then I want you to draw a nice big smile like this. Alright, actually needs to go up higher, so that's why we're using our pencil nice and light with your pencil. Now, a lot of artists would just go for it. So this is where I'm going to try to make shadow. I can either up and down or a side to side. I think I'm going to go to diagonal like this. I'm trying to keep these fairly even. Now there's a few ways you could go about this, and it might change the way it looks. All right, so that's the first part. Now remember, we have reflected light that's bouncing up onto the sphere in this area here, so we don't want to get rid of that. And then I also want to make the edges look a little lighter, slightly darker, so I'm just going to do a little bit, a tiny bit of lines around the edge like this. And now I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to do some cross hatching here. I'm darkening this up, but I don't want to go too dark yet. And then you can actually go into this part a little bit. Alright. Now this is the area I want to leave right here as for reflected light right in here. So I'm just going to do some cross hatching on the edge here. Now, this is where I'm changing how I'm doing my cross hatching a little bit. I'm giving it a little bit of a curve, so it looks like this. I'm curving it just like that when I'm doing that edge. That way it's going to make it look more round. So I'm doing that all around, and not too much on the top because I want to keep it light. Alright, now in this area here I can go darker, so I'm going to add some more and go a little bit bigger with them. And then go back over here, have a few in that area. Now remember, I said we had reflected light, right? So I want to come up over here and do some more in this direction, but leave this area lighter looking. This is where you have to basically look carefully when you're doing this to make sure you're not losing things. And then I'm going to sneak in closer to the highlight, but don't cover up the highlight. Kind of watching what I'm doing, making sure if I need a little lighter area there, or maybe I need to go darker here. You can add more lines. Now this is kind of what some of you were doing without realizing you were, because you're not doing your shading very smooth, you were making a lot of lines with your pencil. Of course I didn't want you to smudge it either. So, alright, so if you want to, we can do like we did with that and draw out your shadow. I'm going to do it with pencil for you so you can tell about where I'm thinking the shadow should be. Right in around here, depending on where the light exactly is. But I'm leaving it with pencil, that way I can erase it, because I just want to do a scribble. I do another scribble, or I could do dots. Or I could do parallel. You know what? I want to do parallel this time. I want to just go across like this, back and forth. So it's kind of like a scribble, but it's more of a back and forth parallel line, horizontal line, I should say. And I'm just kind of cross-hatching it this way, doing some overlapping. I'm going kind of fast, so it's not exactly. And I have this line here that ended up being circled when I did that earlier to show you. So maybe I'll just do a few like that as well. Now the surface is usually flat, so that's why I'm trying to just to do regular. Darken this under here. Fix that edge. You can always go a little bit bigger without losing the same concept here. So that's how you can still do a lot of shading and stuff, even if you have a pen. That's how artists get away with using a pen and still showing 3D objects because they can cross hatch on them.